Hello and welcome back to another video. This is episode 6 of the Q&A series. Thank you very much for more great questions and I look forward to answering some of these. Now, as always, in the description there is a timestamp with the question that was asked, so you can skip to specific questions if you don't want to hear all of the answers to everything I say. You can skip straight to the specific ones. Now, before we dive into the questions, I do want to say if I seem a little less energetic in this video, it's because I am exhausted. You guys and girls have kept me insanely busy. Thank you very much. There's been probably the most amount of sales unit-wise we've had in a very long time, in such a short amount of time, like 7-8 sales in a single day. It's insane. So thank you very much. Although I do need some rest, so I'm going to catch up on that at some point this week, I reckon. Now, if you'd like your question answered in this video, the best way to do it is either leave it down in the description, send us an email, or wait until a Tuesday, because we put on the story, the Q&A box in the stories at our Instagram at Kibble Watches. And what is on wrist, because I almost always forget this, I am actually wearing a watch that's going off for polish as soon as this video is done. It is a gorgeous Rolex Explorer 116622 with the platinum dial, platinum bezel. This watch is now sold, or is about to be sold once it's been polished. So yeah, I mean, gorgeous watch. I love this watch. I've always wanted one of these, and this exact one as well, the 116622. Maybe one day. Until then, I get to enjoy it for maybe an hour or two more before it's someone else's. So we're going to start with question 1, which is actually from, it came in on email, and the gentleman wants to stay anonymous, which is fair enough. If you guys and girls would prefer to stay anonymous, just let me know and we can obviously blank out your names, that's fine. He says pros and cons to working in the industry and how much money can be earned. Very good question, something that gets asked a lot. So we'll start with the how much money can be earned side of things. I mentioned it in a few videos ago, so I will, if you want to see that specific one, ask me and I'll find the exact part and send you that. But pretty much the way this industry works is it's usually around a 7 to 14% margin is what most watch dealers work on. So if you understand that margin, you can work out the rest. Now that's margin in terms of sales. So if you do $1 million in sales, you're likely going to make somewhere between 70,000 and 140,000 in margin, in sort of revenue. Then you've got to obviously account for everything else, your VAT. So most watch dealers work on what's called a margin scheme here in the UK, which is where you pay VAT on the margin. The reason being, if you just heard what I said about how much we make, 7 to 14%, around that kind of figure, that's less than what VAT is in the UK, which is 20%. So if we were paying VAT on full price, we'd actually be losing money on every single watch we sold, basically. So for that reason, we pay VAT on the margin. So you have to take 20% off the margin you actually make. And then there's obviously further fees. If you have an office, the cost of your office, cost of shipping. I mean, we do probably hundreds of pounds a week. Yeah, easily hundreds of pounds a week. Some weeks, £300-400 in just postage alone. So you have to account for that. You have to account for transaction fees of credit cards and everything like that, website, your insurance. That's a huge one. That's a big chunk out of your profit. So you have to account for all these things. I think after all of it, and it sounds crazy, but I think you're probably looking at about a 5% margin after all your expenses, and that's before even probably paying yourself. So this is an industry, 5 to 7% I'd say, to be fair. This is an industry you've got to do out of love and passion, because it is not a good industry to make a lot of money. Can you make a lot of money? 100%. If you are dealing in high value and high revenue items, then you can make a lot of money. But in general, them figures I just gave you are pretty much the rule of thumb to how much money you can make. So do the maths. How much in sales would you need to do to cover your way of life that you have right now, the way of life you dream of, and that's how much you're gonna have to do in sales. And for the first part of his question, pros and cons to working in the industry. Pros are, if you're into the industry, it's so much fun. I mean, every day is like a going to school day for me. I learn something new. I see something I've never seen before. I'm opening up a watch and assessing things in a slightly different way. You know, everything is a constant learning and evolving, and it's exciting. You know, I don't think there's ever a day where there's not something new, which is fun. And that's definitely the biggest pro to me. And another pro for me is being my own boss. It's the best thing I've ever done, and it's probably the thing I'm most proud of, to be able to actually be my own boss, pay my own way, doing whatever it is I'm doing at that time. And I think that's a huge thing, you know, always working for someone else, which is what I've done before this. That's the biggest thing for me. So they're the biggest pros. The cons are sort of two parts of what I've just said. You know, it's a non-stop industry. My phone goes off from the moment I'm sleeping till the moment I'm sleeping again. It never stops. It's constantly ringing. There's always messages. Now, as someone who enjoys working, I would probably say I'm a workaholic. That doesn't bother me as much. I quite enjoy that, but it's definitely a con because it means there are days where you're just not feeling it. You just want a day off. You're exhausted. You kind of can't. This is still going off. Emails are still coming in, Instagram messages, and if someone's wanting to buy a watch, unfortunately, people aren't very patient. They don't very much consider, especially on Instagram. You know, it was Valentine's Day, and I was getting messages at 8 p.m. on a Sunday on Valentine's Day, and then 20 minutes later, they're sending me a series of question marks because I haven't replied. It's like, come on, people, you know. And the other con is the self-employed part. So it's a pro and it's a con. The reason being, and I'm having it right now with trying to get a new flat, it's just an absolute nightmare. They constantly, because you're self-employed and you have your own business, you have to meet completely unrealistic separate targets and figures for them to accept you. Whereas if you worked at McDonald's and you had a basic income, they'd take you in at far less. So it's very frustrating. You're constantly having to prove yourself in series like that. So it's something to consider. You know, if you are looking at getting a mortgage in a few years, becoming self-employed is a big deal. So make sure you figure that out and figure out how that's all going to work with your finances and everything like that. So there's the pros, there's the cons. There are a million more pros than cons, and that's all I can think of at this moment. Apparently I move a lot when I do these videos. I'm always picking stuff up, so you'll have to forgive me. I'm a bit of a fidget. So question 2 from my dad. He says, what brand do you see on the rise at the moment? Great question. I think from modern watches, if we're talking the new brand, modern watches, it's got to be Fears watches. And I know I might sound biased as a friend of Nicholas and someone who stocks Fears watches, but the sales speak for themselves with those guys. I mean, they've got a wait list or a list of people who want the Fears Salmon, upwards of 50 to 60 plus people waiting for one. They've sold out of all their steel watches, and they're not exactly reducing or holding back inventory or anything like that. They're selling organically. So I think in terms of modern watches, 100% Fears, I think they're a brand to look out for, and especially this year, it's their 175th anniversary, and they have some incredible stuff planned, which I can't speak to, but just keep an eye out. I promise you're going to like it. And in terms of vintage or sort of other brands, I think Movado, Mido, and Nevada are 3 brands I'm always going on about. I'm always buying when I can, like really good examples. And whenever I sell one to someone, it's usually the first time they bought that brand. And once they get it, they fall in love with it and want me to find more. So I would say those 3 brands for sure. Question 3, Julian Higgs, good watch for an 8-year-old. It's a tough one. I mean, the very simple, obvious answer would always be a Swatch or something like that, or a Flick Flack. I don't know what age Flick Flack goes up to, and whether that's too childish for an 8-year-old, I don't really know. But those are your very basic options. And Casio, resilient stuff that an 8-year-old isn't going to destroy. But if you want something a bit more quirky, it's going to cost a bit more, but is automatic and maybe an introduction to like real watches, if you will. We have a gorgeous Oris, and Leah actually pointed this one out. That would be a good option. A really gorgeous blue mid-sized diver that looks amazing. That could be a cool option if you're looking for stuff like that. But much less price point, Seiko, things like that for sure. But personally, when I have a child and that child gets to 8, they're probably going to have a Swatch or something. I'm not going to trust them personally, I don't think, with a £500 automatic watch. Question 4, Will Gins 92, hopefully I didn't butcher that too much. Best watch out there under £1,500. I mean, off the top of my head, probably Oris Aquis. What I'm trying to do, by the way, guys, I'm trying to not drop a loop. I'm trying to not go through these questions beforehand, so you get my raw, honest answers on the spot. So do forgive me if I'm saying things a little bit wrong or whatever. But under 1,500, Oris Aquis is definitely a go-to at that kind of price, and any vintage Omega. At that kind of price, there is a lot of options. A beautiful vintage Seamaster, we've got one coming soon. Those kind of things for sure. Next question from JJ Hughes. Thank you for the question. I hope you're well. Predictions for the new Rolex models. Not that anyone will ever be able to buy them anyway. I don't have any predictions, to be honest. I see a lot of, every year we go through the same cycle. Every single YouTuber, and this is nothing against that, but every single YouTuber is putting out the predictions or a leaked photo of what it's going to be. I know people who work for Rolex and people who have worked at Rolex and fairly high up, and they do not know what is actually being released, and they're being honest. So if they don't know, the chances of someone getting the proper leaked images are very, very low. Has it happened before and they got it right? 100%. But it's not very likely that it's going to happen. So to be honest, I have no predictions. I'm a bit bored and fed up of the latest Rolex this, the latest Rolex that. You know, I'm getting much more into vintage as of lately, and with modern, I'm sort of keeping it onto the unusual modern, you know. Like we've got a really cool Elise Nardin, we've got a couple of Habrings, you know, really gorgeous modern alternatives to the cliche Rolex. So I have no predictions, and to be honest, when it gets announced, I'm probably not going to care either, as I'm sure you probably won't, to be honest, Jonathan. Question 6 from Dungate. Ming or Tudor? Tudor. I say that really quick. We have a Ming. Ming are great. I think what they're doing is incredible. Where they are price-wise in the secondary market, including what we have, is a lot higher than their retail price. And if you really, really want one, get one. Buy what you like, I say it all the time. But as far as brand history, recognition, and everything like that, Tudor wins for me, personally. Do I appreciate a Ming? 100%. They've got a really cool diver on a bracelet. I would love to own that one day, but I'm not going to pay $4.5 grand for one. So for me, Tudor. Question 7, Amibrahim. Really sorry if I absolutely butchered that name. We'll have it on screen. What is your favorite Rolex Datejust reference and why? Great question. 1601 to 1601 personally, which is the fluted bezel. 1601's pre-quick set, 1601 I think I got my references right. Again, this is off the top of the head. That one is the quick set dates. I would prefer that one just because of the ease of the quick set. But there's something about an original 1601 which is just always nice. I potentially have one incoming, so maybe keep an eye out. But 100% that white gold fluted bezel on a Jubilee, ideally the folded Jubilee, because I just find them really comfortable. That's my favourite personal Datejust reference. And if we're talking modern, it'd have to be the platinum Arabic dial with the sort of Tiffany blue. I absolutely adore that watch. But I'm a vintage guy, so it'd probably be that. Question 8 from Watch UK. Make sure you guys are following them. Thank you for the question, John. Is it worth me setting up a personal Instagram account or just one more ever long list of things to maintain? John, don't you start a personal Instagram account. Honestly, you would implode with the work, honestly. But all jokes aside, I don't think it would work for you personally. But I have a personal Instagram account, james.kibble. Make sure you guys are following there as well. I'm trying to use it more to show the behind the scenes of the business because a lot of people from this Q&A series, I can tell, are interested in that kind of thing, which is why we do this series. So I'm trying to use that as an entrance to be able to see what we do, you know, me opening watches, talking a bit more numbers wise, you know, which people seem to be enjoying, but it's a lot of work to maintain because also we have the actual Instagram account, which we do 10 to 20 stories every single day. We do a post to 2 posts every single day. We're active. We have probably 30 to 50 messages on there a day. And I know that sounds ludicrous for the amount of followers we have, but I swear to you, it is that active. If I go on now, I've got, yeah, there's 3 messages already in that time just there. So it happens. So John, don't start a personal Instagram, but for people out there who have a business account, it makes sense to have a personal Instagram because it can connect the two and it sort of shows the person behind the brand. But if your brand's done the way I've done it, which is like very open and transparent, I'm very much me on my Instagram. The business Instagram, that is, you don't really need it. I'm just doing it as an extra thing. Question 9, I get asked this a lot, so thank you for the question, Chris. Watch this Space 82, by the way. So he says, any thoughts on offering a monthly finance payment option in the future? So this is something I get asked a lot because a lot of people see other businesses offering finance, you know, 0% finance over 4 years or whatever the rates are now. I did have conversations with finance companies regarding this. The fees for it is ridiculous and it just doesn't make any sense for the value of what we do for the most part. What we offer is, we do offer a layaway, which is where you can pay, we can keep it aside for like a 2 or 3 month period, depending on the watch and depending on the value of that watch. And also we charge more for that fee because we're storing the watch for that amount of time and we're basically storing away potential capital that we could sell elsewhere just by reducing the price a little bit. So it has to make financial sense for us to do. So we offer a layaway on specific items. Don't expect it on all, and don't expect to. I get a lot of people ask if they can like get a watch at like 10% off and also pay in 3 months. It's like, no, you know, it just makes no sense. So right now, no, we're not planning on doing anything official. We keep it very basic because at the end of the day, personally, I don't want to encourage that kind of thing as well. I think if you can't afford the watch, I don't think you should be financing it. Now, 0% over 4 years, you're not paying any more, so I get it. You know, I completely get the thought process behind that. But for me, these are expensive toys, you know, and they're just, you shouldn't be getting yourself in debt over them. That's my personal take, so therefore I'm not going to try and push that on my business. Question 10, fun with fire. I know dealing is more of what you do, but have you tried watchmaking aspects? Yes. Before I became a watch dealer, or before I even thought about becoming a watch dealer, I actually wanted to become a watchmaker. And I watched the video and took apart a Timex and I smashed it into pieces and said I'd never open a watch again because I hated it. I'm not very patient with that kind of stuff. I'm not very, I don't know what the word is, but just good at that kind of stuff, so I never bothered doing it. But that being said, last year with Antique Watch John, he actually decided to teach me a few things. You know, I got all the tools I needed, the proper stuff, a lot of Bergeron and all that kind of brand, cost a fortune, but I took apart a couple of watches actually, and managed to get a few put back together and actually fully serviced and running pretty well, and still running well to this day. So I've done a few bits and bobs. Is it something I ever plan to do more of? No. Main reason being the amount of time it takes to get actually very good at that, to be at a point where it makes any sort of financial difference. And I know it shouldn't always be about that, but right now, because of how busy I am, any time I spend on other things has to make a financial gain, really, which I know sounds sad, but for just in the industry, you know, obviously I still have hobbies and stuff, but in the industry, when I'm in the office, it's got to be just selling watches, buying watches, processing watches, you know, that kind of stuff. Any time spent away has to pay money in as well. So hopefully that all makes sense. I think I said it about 5 times, but there we go. And the final question from Relogista. I think I said that right. Which Explorer 1 is the Explorer 1 model is the best pick nowadays? I mean, whichever one you like the best. That's the very cheap and easy answer to say. But personally, I think the 114270, which is the final iteration of the 36mm, is the best option you can go for, because you've got solid end links, just a better build quality in the 36mm size. So that's my personal favorite. That being said, the 14270, so the one before that, is great. The 1601, you know, all vintage 36mm options are my personal favorite, but the 39 are great and they still wear very well. So whichever one is your favorite, but if I had to give an actual answer, 114270, there you go. All right, thank you very much for all the questions. I enjoyed this episode. Again, apologies if I don't seem as energetic. I just need to get some extra sleep, that's for sure. And we're going to get on to recording the drop video straight after this, so keep an eye out Saturday for all the new watches coming, and don't forget to submit your questions for the next episode. We look forward to seeing you in the next one. Take care, guys.